تعجل بالقرآن من قبل أن يقضى إليك وحيه وقل رب زدني علما.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. So last week then you remember we were discussing the topic regarding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala being above, but at the same time the evidences that indicate Allah is with the creation. So we had mentioned the ayah where Allah said, هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في ستة أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير. You remember in this one, Allah told us that He is the one who created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. Allah created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. And then it mentions He rose above the throne. He rose above the throne. And He knows what enters into the earth and what comes out of the earth, and what descends from the sky, and what goes up into it. And He is with you wherever you may be. So the ayah is telling us at the beginning that Allah is above His throne, but then later on Allah is telling us He is with you wherever you are. So you remember there were 3 methods of combining between those two affairs. Firstly, it was to mention that there is absolutely no contradiction in the Quran. If Allah tells us He is above the throne and that He is with us, those two things are not contradictory. There is no contradiction in the Quran whatsoever. The second point to mention was that it is possible to say that something is above but also with you. And the example of that was مَا زِلْنَا نَسِيرٌ وَالْقَمَرُ مَعَنَا, that we are walking or traveling and the moon is with us. Meaning they were traveling all night and the moon was there all night. Everywhere they went, the moon is there in the sky with them. So the moon is with them, but we know that the moon is above them. So it is possible to mention something being above but also being with you. And thirdly, even if we were to say that we accept your argument that you cannot have something above and with, that in creation that doesn't work. Even if we accept that, then that in creation you cannot have something above but also with, we say no problem, that is in creation. And it is not a necessity that Allah is restricted by what we see in creation. Allah is not restricted by what we are restricted by. So all of those are explanations highlighting that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is indeed above all of the creation, but Allah is with the creation. قوله وليس معنى قوله وهو معكم أنه مختلط بالخلق. And it should be understood that when we say Allah is with you wherever you are, it does not mean that Allah is mixed in with the creation. When we say that Allah is with you wherever you are, it does not mean that Allah is mixed in with the creation. That would be a deficiency to Allah for us to say that Allah is here mixed in with us. That would be a deficiency being attributed to Allah. So when we say Allah is with you, we don't mean that Allah is mixed in with the creation. فليس معنى قوله وهو معكم أنه مختلط بالخلق لأن هذا المعنى نقص وقد سبق أنه لو كان هذا هو المعنى لزم أحد أمرين إما تعدد الخالق أو تجزؤه مع ما في ذلك أيضا من كون الأشياء تحيط به وهو سبحانه محيط بالأشياء. So there would be problems that would arise if you began claiming that Allah is mixed in with all of the creation. One of the issues would be that you would then be claiming or insinuating that Allah is surrounded by the creation. And that is not the case. Rather, Allah is the greatest. The creation does not surround Allah and encompass Allah. That's what the Shaykh says. مع ما في ذلك أيضا من كون الأشياء تحيط به وهو سبحانه محيط بالأشياء. It is not that the creation encompasses around Allah. Rather, Allah is the one who encompasses all of the creation. قوله فإن هذا لا توجبه اللغة. That this is something that the language does not necessitate. This is from the original section of what Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned, where Ibn Taymiyyah was highlighting these aspects of Allah being above and Allah being with. فإن هذا لا توجبه اللغة. يعني إذا كانت اللغة لا توجبه لم يتعين وهذا أحد الوجوه الدالة على بطلان مذهب الحلولية من الجهمية وغيرهم القائلين بأن الله مع خلقه مختلطا بهم. So linguistically, it cannot be argued that the meaning of this is Allah is mixed in with the creation. Linguistically saying that Allah is with you does not necessitate that Allah is mixed in with the creation. And so this is in opposition to the people of innovation, the Hululiyah from the Jahmiyyah, who claim that Allah is mixed in with the creation. ولم يقل لا تقتضيه اللغة لأن اللغة قد تقتضيه وفرق بين كون اللغة تقتضي ذلك وبين كونها توجب ذلك. It doesn't mean that linguistically it can't mean that. It can. But it doesn't necessitate that. There's a difference. You remember the example of I am with you. In that, and somebody you're talking to them who's in a different country. So in that case, does it necessitate you are physically with them? You are not. But using the word ma'a, can it mean that you are with someone? It can. So it can mean that, but it doesn't necessitate that. So there's a difference. There's a difference between saying something can mean this and saying something has to mean this. So it could mean that linguistically, but we know it is not necessitated. And here with these ayat and the attributes of Allah, we know that it is not necessitated and it is not correct to say that Allah is mixed in with the creation. فالمعية في اللغة قد تقتضي الاختلاط مثل الماء واللبن. تقول ماء مع لبن مخلوطا. So the ma'a being with linguistically can mean the intermingling. Like you say, this is a glass of water and milk. You pour the milk in, you pour the water in, now you have the milk with the water mixed in together in the glass. It can mean that. But the point we're making is it does not necessitate that in every instance you use that word in the language. Hence, you can ring somebody in a different country and say to them, don't worry, I'm with you, and you are nowhere near them. So the language is open to that meaning, but it does not necessitate it in every circumstance and in every context. قوله وهو خلاف ما أجمع عليه سلف الأمة وخلاف ما فطر الله عليه الخلق, and claiming that Allah is mixed in with the creation, that is in opposition to what the Salaf were united upon. That is in opposition to what the Salaf were united upon, and it is in opposition to what is in your innate nature. Within your innate nature and your recognition of the greatness of your Lord, you would not say that Allah is mixed in with the creation. And the scholars, they mention that. They say, we've given this example before. They say, compared to you, relative to you, somebody else can either be below you, or they could be equal to you, or they could be higher than you. Normally, in human nature, we understand that if somebody is below you physically, then they are below you, less respect than you or less honor than you. They are below, they are low down. Like in the olden days when they used to have the ships, the poor people were put right at the bottom of the ship. Then somebody could be at the same level as you, that's equal to you. Or somebody could be above you. Like you walk into the chamber of the king, he's sitting on his throne, on the platform higher than you. You walk in, you are below him, he's above you. So somebody can be below you, somebody could be on the same level as you, somebody could be above you. When it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, would we ever claim that Allah is below us? A'udhu billah. Would we ever even claim that Allah is at the same level as us? A'udhu billah. The only possibility in regards to Allah we understand in our hearts is that Allah, our Creator, is certainly the mighty and majestic who is above us. If you claim Allah being with you means Allah is mixed in here, then at the least you are saying Allah is equal to all of us on this earth. And that doesn't work. It cannot be in the hearts of the believer that we are at the same level as our Creator. So that is the fitrah, خلاف ما فطر الله عليه الخلق. وذلك لأن الإنسان مفطور على أن الخالق بائن من المخلوق. We know in our nature that our Creator is separate from us, not mixed in. Allah is separate from us, the Creator, and us, the creation. ليس أحد إذا قال يا الله إلا ويعتقد أن الله تعالى بائن من خلقه لا يعتقد أنه حال في حلقه. Nobody who makes dua to Allah makes the dua believing that Allah is mixed in here with us. You all make dua recognizing that your Lord is separate from us, separate from this creation, the mighty and majestic, the most high, Allah Ta'ala. You make your dua knowing that even the people who claim Allah is everywhere, when they make dua, they know they raise their hands. Why are you raising your hands making dua if you believe Allah is everywhere? Then you can leave your hands here, you can leave your hands there. Allah is everywhere. Why, when you make dua, then you know naturally, raise your hands. Because even though you're trying to claim Allah is everywhere, really inside you know your Lord is the Most High and above. فدعوى أنه مختلط بالخلق مخالف للشرع ومخالف للعقل ومخالف للفطرة. So claiming that Allah is mixed in with the creation everywhere, that is in opposition to the legislation, in opposition to the texts and the evidences, and it is in opposition to the intellect, and it is in opposition to your natural innate nature. You know that cannot be the case. قوله بل القمر آية من آيات الله من أصغر مخلوقاته وهو موضوع في السماء وهو مع المسافر وغير المسافر أينما كان. He gives the example now, and the moon. That is an ayah, a sign from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moon, it is a great sign from the signs of Allah. And yet in reality it is only one of the smallest of the creations of Allah, the moon. And it is placed in the sky. The moon is placed in the sky, and it is with the traveler on this earth. When you're traveling at night, wherever you go, the moon is still there with you, traveling with you wherever you go. وهذا مثل ضرب المؤلف رحمه الله تقريبا للمعنى وتحقيقا لصحة كون الشيء مع الإنسان حقيقة مع تباعد ما بينهما. So this is an example that has been given to explain how something can be with you despite being actually distanced from you. Wherever you're walking at night, the moon is there with you. No matter 20 miles, 30 miles you travel, the moon is still there with you. And yet, even though it's with you wherever you go, it is clearly far away from you. So something can be with you in reality, and yet it is still far away and distanced from you in reality. وذلك أن القمر من أصغر المخلوقات وهو في السماء ومع المسافر وغيره أينما كان. فإذا كان هذا المخلوق وهو من أصغر المخلوقات نقول إنه معنا وهو في السماء ولا يعد ذلك تناقضا ولا يقتضي اختلاطا، فلماذا لا يصح أن نجري آيات المعية على ظاهرها ونقول هو معنا حقيقة وإن كان هو في السماء فوق كل شيء. So now then, if a person was to say, I walked all night and the moon was with us all night, would anybody say that doesn't even make sense? What do you mean the moon was with you all night? Nobody would say that. It makes clear sense. We walked all night. We were traveling through the desert the whole night. And mashallah, it was a full moon night. The moon was with us the whole night. Anybody going to say there's a problem with that? The moon was with us the whole night. We walked 20 miles that night and the moon was with us all night. No problem with that sentence. And yet everybody understands there is no intermingling. When the person says the moon was with us all night, doesn't mean the moon was here and it came down onto the earth and they were together. Everybody knows it doesn't mean mixing. The moon was there far away, and yet they understand that the moon was with them all night. So this sentence and this phrase would not be considered contradictory. If somebody said that, it would not be considered tanaqudan, would not be considered contradictory to say we walked 20 miles that night and the moon was with us all night. Nobody would say that's a contradiction. How can the moon be with you when it's in the sky? Nobody would say that, because it is clear. The moon can be with you and yet it is far away from you. The moon can be with you and it does not necessitate that you mean intermingling, mixed in with you. Everybody knows that's not what you mean. So if that type of language is possible and the meaning is possible with something in creation, then certainly it is possible with regards to the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وكما قلنا سابقا لو فرض أن هذا ممتنع في الخلق لكان في الخالق غير ممتنع. Even if we said that okay, it can't work in creation, you can't be with something but also far away, even if that was the case, then we would say that is not restricted to Allah though. If it is restricted for us and we can't do that, it doesn't mean and doesn't necessitate it is restricted from Allah to do that. فالرب عز وجل هو في السماء حقيقة وهو معنا حقيقة ولا تناقض في ذلك. So we say Allah is above the heavens in reality and Allah is with us in reality, and there is no contradiction in that. حتى وإن كان بعيدا عز وجل في علوه فإنه قريب في علوه. Even if we say that Allah is far above in His Highness, then still Allah is near to us despite His Highness. So there is no contradiction in these affairs. وهذا الذي حققه شيخ الإسلام في كتبه وقال إنه لا حاجة إلى أن نؤول الآية بل الآية على ظاهرها. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, this is the conclusion he came to. This was his analysis in his books. He said there is no need to try to interpret the ayah in any other way. The ayah that says Allah is above and Allah is with you. He said there's no need to try and make any interpretations out of that. Leave it as it is. Allah is above and Allah is with you. There is no contradiction in that in the first place. لكن مع اعتقادنا بأن الله تعالى في السماء على عرشه. We believe that Allah is with us, but we believe that Allah is above all of the creation, above His throne. فهو معنا حقا وهو على عرشه حقا. So Allah is with us in truth, in reality, and Allah is above His throne in truth, in reality. كما نقول إنه ينزل إلى السماء الدنيا حقا وهو في العلو ولا أحد من أهل السنة ينكر هذا أبدا. Just as we say that Allah descends to the lowest heaven and He is the Most High. He is the Most High, yet He descends to the lowest heaven in reality, in truth. And that is perfectly correct and established. And nobody from Ahlul Sunnah rejected that. كل أهل السنة يقولون هو ينزل حقا متفقون على أنه في العلو لأن صفات الخالق ليست مثل صفات المخلوق. So we say that Allah descends in reality, and yet Ahlul Sunnah are in agreement that Allah is above and the Most High, because the attributes of Allah, you cannot try to compare them to the attributes in creation. And we cannot try to restrict Allah with what we have as restrictions. And then الشيخ العثيمين he says وقد عثرت على تقرير للشيخ محمد بن إبراهيم رحمه الله يبين هذا المعنى تماما، أي أن المعية حق على حقيقتها ولا تستلزم أن يكون مختلطا بالخلق أو أنه في الأرض قال جوابا على قول بعض السلف معهم بعلمه. He says that I came across some statements of Shaykh Muhammad ibn Ibrahim rahimahullah where he clarified this completely, that the fact Allah is with us is in reality, and that this does not necessitate Allah is mixed in with the creation or that Allah is on the earth. Allah being with us does not necessitate that Allah is on the earth, mixed in with us. And قال جوابا على قول بعض السلف معهم بعلمه. Some of the Salaf had mentioned that the meaning of it can be, it is understood that Allah is with you with His knowledge. That Allah is with you with His knowledge. And it can be said though, more than that, Allah is with you in reality. But it does not necessitate Allah is mixed in with the creation. إذا جاءت هذه الكلمة, regarding this particular statement especially, when the Salaf said the meaning could be that معهم بعلمه, that Allah is with you with His knowledge. He said إذا جاءت هذه الكلمة فهي تفسير للمعية بالمقتضى ليس تفسيرا لحقيقة الكلمة. That this statement, Allah is with you with His knowledge, that is a tafsir of Allah being with you by what is necessitated from it. Allah being with you means that Allah is all knowledgeable about everything regarding you. Ma'akum bi'ilmihi. Allah is with you, meaning knowledgeable of everything about you. That is what is necessitated by Allah being with you. والذي يحمل ويحدو على التفسير أو يحمل بهذا أن المنازع في هذا المبتدعة الذين يقولون إنه مختلط بهم، فيأتي البعض من السلف بالمراد بالسياق وهو أنه بكمال علمه، ولكن لا يريدون أن كلمة مع مدلولها بكل شيء عليم، بل اجتمعت معها في العلم وزادت المعية في المعنى وهو كونه معهم، فتفسيرها بالمقتضى لا يدل على أن معناها باطل فالكل حق. The summary of that is that if you hear the statement of the Salaf that Allah is with you through His knowledge, then that does not mean that it is a negation of Allah being with you overall, that Allah is with you in reality. Allah being with you with His knowledge is what is necessitated by Allah being with you, but that is not a negation of us saying Allah is with you in reality. That is also established and clear. Allah is with you in reality and Allah is above. But they mentioned Allah is with you with His knowledge because that is what is necessitated by Allah being with you. إلى أن قال ولهذا شيخ الإسلام في عقيدته أو في عقيدته الأخرى المباركة المختصرة بين أن قوله معهم حق على حقيقته. And that's why Shaykh al-Islam also highlighted saying that Allah is with you in reality is a statement of truth. فمن فسرها من السلف بالمقتضى فلحاجة دعت إلى ذلك وهو الرد على أهل الحلول الجهمية الذين ينكرون العلو كما تقدم. So when the Salaf gave that explanation that it means Allah is with you in His knowledge, that was in specific circumstances when they needed to give that extra explanation. Otherwise, they were not rejecting or negating that Allah is with you in reality. But in certain circumstances, to refute the people of innovation, they needed to explain certain points in more detail or highlight certain points in more detail. وَالْقُرْآنُ يُفَسَّرُ بالمطابقة وبالمفهوم وبالاستلزام والمقتضى وغير ذلك من الدلالات، وهؤلاء العلماء الذين روي عنهم التفسير بالمقتضى لا ينكرون المعية بل هي عندهم كالشمس So the scholars who mention, or the Salaf who mention that Allah is with you means Allah is with you in His knowledge, they are not rejecting the statement that Allah is with you in reality. They are not rejecting that. They are simply highlighting this point of knowledge, highlighting and bringing that to the surface, but they are not rejecting the rest. Can we say then, هل يصح أن نقول هو معنا بذاته? Can we say then that Allah is with us in His essence? Can we say that Allah is with us in His essence? No. No. Anybody else? No. Can we say that Allah is with us بذاته, in His essence? So the fatwa from everybody is no. So الجواب هذا اللفظ يجب أن يبعد أو يبعد عنه. This word, it is required that you stay away from it. You stay away from this phrase of saying Allah is with us in His essence. لأنه يوهم معنى فاسدا يحتج به من يقول بالحلول. Because if you use that phrase and say Allah is with us in His essence, then the innovators will interpret from your speech or catch you on your speech in saying that you are therefore agreeing with us. Allah is mixed in with us everywhere. You're saying Allah is with us in His essence. So Allah is with us, mixed in with us everywhere. We're the same, that means. So you don't want to open up that door to the mubtadi'ah. You do not want to open up that argument for them, because it can be possibly understood like that from them and interpreted like that from them. So we don't use that phrase, Allah is with us in His essence. وَلَا حَاجَةَ إِلَيْهِ. Shaykh Al-Uthaymeen says there is no need for it anyway. لأن الأصل أن كل شيء أضافه الله إلى نفسه فهو له نفسه. ألا ترى إلى قوله تعالى وجاء ربك. هل يحتاج أن نقول جاء بذاته؟ Think about other examples. When Allah says وجاء ربك, and your Lord, He came, do we need to sit there and start saying, so did Allah come in His essence? Does anybody say that? Nobody mentions that when it comes to those points. So why start mentioning it when it comes to the issue of Allah being with the creation? You don't mention it in those other points, there is no need. Allah came, Allah came. No need to open up in His essence and this and that. And the same with this, we don't need to open up that discussion. وإلى قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم ينزل ربنا إلى السماء الدنيا. That Allah descends to the lowest heaven. Again, do we start talking about, okay, so Allah descends with His essence, بذاته? We don't talk about that. So if we don't need to talk about that issue in any of the other topics, we don't need to talk about that in this topic of the ma'iyyah, of Allah being with the creation. إننا لا نحتاج إلى ذلك اللهم إلا في مجادلة من يدعي أنه جاء أمره أو ينزل أمره لرد تحريفه. The only time you would have to start explaining that Allah Himself in His essence descends, etc., you would have to maybe open up the discussion, is where the innovators, where some of the people of misguidance claim that it is not Allah who came, and it is not Allah who descends, that it's the command of Allah that descends, or the mercy of Allah that descends, and they make up other interpretations of the ayat. Then you would have to maybe open up the discussion a little bit to try to highlight to them, no, it is not the command of Allah or the mercy of Allah. It is Allah who descends, and it is Allah who came. قوله وهو سبحانه فوق عرشه رقيب على خلقه مهيمن عليهم مطلع عليهم. So the statement of the author, and he, subhanah, is above his throne, and he oversees all of his creation, and he has the authority and control over them all, observing all of them. يقول رحمه الله وهو سبحانه فوق عرشه مع أنه مع الخلق لكنه فوق عرشه. So we've now just said, yes, Allah is with the creation, but Allah is above his throne. رقيب على خلقه, that he oversees and guards his creation. يعني مراقبا حافظا لأقوالهم وأفعالهم وحركاتهم وسكناتهم, that he is the one who oversees and guards over their statements and actions and movements and lack of movements, all of that observed and maintained and preserved by Allah. مهيمن عليهم, that he is the one with authority over them. أي حاكم مسيطر على عباده, the one who is the judge, the ruler, the one with authority over his creation. فله الحكم وإليه يرجع الأمر كله وأمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون. So everything is in the control of Allah, and when He wants something to occur, He will say be, and it is. Kun fayakun, be, and it is. فقوله إلى غير ذلك من معاني ربوبيته, and other than that from the meanings of the rububiyyah of Allah. يعني بذلك ما تضمنه معنى الربوبية من ملك وسلطان والتدبير وغير ذلك، فإن معاني الربوبية كثيرة، لأن الرب هو الخالق المالك المدبر، وهذه تحمل معاني كثيرة جدا. So the rububiyyah of Allah, the lordship of Allah, encompasses many meanings. That He is the one who is the owner of all of the creation, the one with the authority over all of the creation, the one who controls and determines what happens in all of the creation. So there are many meanings that are encompassed within the rububiyyah, the lordship of Allah. That's why we say Tawheed al-Rububiyyah, Ifradullahi bi af'alihi. Ifradullahi ta'ala bi af'alihi. To single out Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with His actions. That He is the creator, the provider, the sustainer, the one who gives life and death. That He is the one who sends the rain, He provides the provisions. He is the one who is singled out with all of those actions. وكل هذا الكلام الذي ذكره الله من أنه فوق العرش وأنه معنا حق على حقيقته لا يحتاج إلى تحريف. So as we've mentioned now, all of these statements that Allah is above the creation and is with the creation, all of that is in reality and truth, and it does not require any type of interpretation or any type of change to that, any type of deviance away from the correct meanings of that, any distortion of that is not required. ثم استدرك المؤلف رحمه الله فقال ولكن, but then there's an important point Ibn Taymiyyah mentioned. ولكن يصان عن الظنون الكاذبة مثل أن يظن أن ظاهر قوله في السماء أن السماء تقله أو تظله وهذا باطل بإجماع أهل العلم والإيمان. So we say that the texts, what's in the Quran and the Sunnah, you affirm that as it is. But that does not mean that you begin to have false ideas that are impermissible and incorrect, false thoughts regarding Allah. So for example, when Allah says that He is fis sama, which literally might mean in the heavens, that you think the heavens encompass Him and surround Him. That is not the case. Allah is greater than anything in creation. So you do not have any types of imaginations of falsehood, any ideas or thoughts that are false regarding Allah. Those types of ideas would be false by consensus of the people of knowledge and iman. الظنون الكاذبة هي الأوهام التي ليس لها أساس من الصحة. It is the thoughts that are only your ideas and imaginations that have no reality to them. فيجب أن يصان عنها كلام الله نعم كلام الله ورسوله. So you must preserve and safeguard the speech of Allah and His Messenger from false ideas and imaginations. مثال ذلك أن يظن أن ظاهر قوله في السماء أن السماء تقله أي تحمله كما يحمل السقف البيت من كان على ظهره أو تظله يعني تكون فوقه كالسقف على الإنسان. An example is when you see that Allah is في السماء, that you think perhaps the sky carries Allah within it. And that is not the case. The sky does not carry, the heavens do not carry Allah within them, nor that they are above Allah shading Him, that Allah is not encompassed by the creation in any way. He is not encompassed by the heavens or the earth in any way. إذا ظن الإنسان هذا فهو ظن كاذب يجب صون الأدلة الدالة على أن الله في السماء عن ذلك. So a person must not fall into false ideas and imaginations regarding the texts. وهذا باطل بإجماع أهل العلم والإيمان. And that is something false for you to have those ideas. That is false by consensus of the scholars and the people of Iman. قد يقول قائل كان على المؤلف أن يقول ومثل أن يظن أن ظاهر قوله وهو معكم أنه مختلط بالخلق لأن هذا الظن كاذب أيضا. وجوابه أن نقول إن المؤلف رحمه الله ذكر ذلك سابقا في قوله وليس معنى قوله وهو معكم أنه مختلط بالخلق. That is the same point again, that we do not start to have false imaginations when we say that Allah is with you, that Allah is mixed in with the creation, or we say Allah is in the heavens, that Allah is within the heavens, surrounded by them, being carried by them. None of those kinds of false meanings should come to mind to a person. That brings us to the end of that particular section regarding Allah being above, but Allah being with you. And remember, we did it briefly once before, several months ago at the beginning of the book when we talked about the ma'iyyah. That was when we talked about the different types of the ma'iyyah. So now the next section, which will start next time, is going to be regarding the footstool of Allah. We know that Allah has the throne, but then Allah also has a footstool, the kursi. وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّهُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. The kursi is غير العرش. It is not the throne. The throne is one thing, the kursi is another thing. So next week we're going to start talking about the footstool of Allah. And then after that we'll talk about the throne of Allah. The throne of Allah. Exactly what do we know about the throne of Allah? There are certain details Allah told us in the Quran and the Sunnah about the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If anybody wants to do some research in advance, there's a lecture once I did a few years ago, maybe 2015, 16, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I don't remember when. And the title of it is The Throne of Allah or something like that. The Throne of Allah or the Arsh of Allah, something along those lines. A 1 hour lecture about all of the details regarding the throne of Allah. You can search for that, Google it, find it on YouTube, it will be there, the throne of Allah. And you can listen to that to get some general idea in advance. Because that section, we'll get to it maybe next week or the week after we do the footstool of Allah. So it will give you some general idea of that topic as well. So we'll conclude upon that for today then. وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.